He was my hero. My father thought two people had walked on water. You know, Jesus was the first one and Will was the second one. That's how important he was to the people of Oklahoma. They felt like he was their not only native son, but their friend. And I'm sure he was the first big Oklahoman to make it big on the national stage. He was the hero of this state. Everything's named after him. Turnpikes, schools, outhouses. It's so good. You know, we spent a lot of time here with school kids and teaching them about their heritage with this man. He was part Cherokee, of course, and so the Indian legacy is there. And something he was very proud of. One of his great lines was, he said, "My folks didn't come over on the Mayflower, but they met the boat."
We welcome you all to the Will Rogers Museum. We're here 365 days a year from 8 to 5. We have the Will Rogers Museum here in Claremore, where you're standing right now. And then we also run the Will Rogers Birthplace Ranch, 12 miles north of here, near the little town of Oologah, Oklahoma. The museum itself was built back in 1938. It's a tribute to the man, the international icon, Will Rogers, who is Oklahoma's favorite son. It's a 9-gallery museum. It pertains just to Will Rogers himself. It is his collection. It's a repository of photographs, his words, his images, and on and on. And we consider ourselves likened to a presidential library as far as the number of people that come through and the amount of research that we work with people on.
I was raised 50 miles south of here, and 50 years later, the only difference was his family was very wealthy and my family was very poor. And as a kid growing up in this area, I always felt like that he was some sort of a distant uncle, a friend. Even though he was dead, he died when I was 3 years old. But my father always, who was just a working man, blue-collar worker, always was quoting Will Rogers, so I thought he was surely somebody close to the family. And of course, he was one of the most famous men in the world, but the world was very small in the 1930s. Being here for nearly 20 years, I've gotten to know him awfully well. I've slept about 50 yards from him where he lies in repose. And I sometimes tell people there's still more intelligence in that tomb than there is running amok in all of Oklahoma. So he's my big hero. I think he was probably by far the most important Oklahoman, and I'd rank him among the very important people in American history. During the darkest hours, he lifted the spirit of the American people and was talking sense when nobody had good sense, and that was the Great Depression, the crash of the market.
Will Rogers was in a line of commentators, critics, humorists, and so on that included people like Mark Twain. And in fact, I never really have seen this, but my suspicion is Mark Twain might have been Will Rogers' hero. I mean, they have the same basic outlook on life and same sort of sometimes cynical outlook on they punctured the powerful sometimes, you know. Will Rogers always said, I only go after the ends because they can take it. He never would, make jokes about the little guy or the guy who was in trouble. I think the legacy is that he showed us that it's possible to do social commentary that is warm and witty and funny and clean. I don't think you can take your children to anything that Will Rogers ever did. He didn't need to resort to off-color material or anything else. It was all family-oriented, but it was good. You didn't feel like I'm at a G movie. You felt like you were, he was so good, he would be what you wanted him to be. Your image of him, he fulfilled that. And I think the most important thing, however, was what he did for the spirits of the American people during the Depression. He kept them from going crazy, from being in total despair. That great line he said, hey, it's bad, but it's not the end of the world. He said we're the only nation in the history to go to the poorhouse in an automobile. People don't know what a poorhouse is today, but he was important for his time. I think the difficult job is really doing a total assessment of his career, because he was cut short in his 50s. So we don't know what he would have done as time passed and as he became even a more seasoned and experienced writer. He's the hero of all reporters, though. I mean, he set the tone for us.